Welcome to the Keto Geek Podcast. Let's do this.
Health, nutrition, fitness, low-carb lifestyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Keto Geek Podcast. Today, I am joined by Corey, who is our production chief manager. What is your exact title anyway?
I like production chief, and for other intensive purposes, I like the alchemist because that sounds way better.
I like the word alchemist. It's kind of like, sounds like Newton, a modern day Neo-Newton.
Yeah, mad scientist Newton.
There you go. So, Corey, welcome aboard. Today we have a very interesting guest on there, but let's delve into some house cleaning that we have today. And I've heard we have a new product coming out.
Yes, I'm really excited to bring it to y'all. We are doing a salted chocolate energy pod, and instead of like the original chocolate energy pod, instead of using nuts as the base, we're going to be using egg protein as the base. So this is going to be a powerful punch of chocolate protein and good fats. So it effectively gives you all the energy you need in the day, and it's also hypoallergenic to folks who are allergic to nuts.
And can you explain to people how they can consume it? Because this is very similar to our coffee protein pod, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it is. So it will have the same structure. It'll be able to mix really well with hot beverages or even cold beverages. So you can enjoy it on its own. I really like the texture of the prototype that we did, and I like consuming it that way. Or you can stir it up into a drink, and it mixes really nicely, specifically with 8 ounces of water.
Yes, and we tried it. It was ridiculously delicious. I enjoyed it. I loved the part where we snuck that prototype pod into the cinema. Reminds me of Infinity Wars, man. That movie. We're not going to talk about spoilers here. We do that in our Instagram live stream, which you can check it out every Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning, Pacific Standard Time. And it's a very family style thing we do every week. So there's a lot of research that I've been doing. But before I delve into some of the work that I've been studying, is there something that you've been working on besides the main product?
I've been working on bringing something more savory to our little Keto Geek menu. That's still in the works right now. It's under wraps, but you may get the scoop if you join us on Sunday 10 a.m. live streams on Instagram.
Hey, even I'm curious now what's going on.
It's a secret, but...
Oh, snap. He's doing something that I don't know about. Now that's a little crazy. So this is going to be fascinating. But yes, so I've been recently going on a tirade, and you've seen me spam you consistently with studies and research on erythritol, which is one of the sweeteners that we use in our energy pods.
Yes.
So there's this one specific study, and I'll link it in the show notes, and it talks about erythritol being produced within the body using the pentose phosphate pathway.
Within the body?
Yes, it's produced within the body. So when some people say that erythritol is unnatural or it's just artificial, it is a chemical produced within your body. It's an ongoing process.
That's kind of a blow to the naysayers of erythritol.
Yes, and I think most of the people who blame sweeteners, I think it's become a bit of a religion against sweeteners, and I really wanted to address this right off the bat in our podcast today because let's do a fun experiment. Let's take your steak, all right, or whatever your delicious salty food is. Now take 5 tablespoons of sugar or any of your sweetener. Now put that on top of that.
Gross.
Okay, now try consuming that, and let alone craving that. So that's the bit of a problem we have with sweeteners. I think we need to backtrack a little bit as far as food and nutrition is concerned. I don't think that pointing our fingers at sweeteners or one specific thing is going to resolve the problems. We've always had this attitude of the villain with 1,000 faces, that's what I call it, where we build these sensational headlines just trying to trap one ingredient for all the problems that exist in our entire country. But since when has that ever happened in a complex society? Since when has anybody actually taken spoonfuls of sweeteners and eaten it as is? What we need to understand is food comes in a combination of several different chemicals, and it is this pursuit of deliciousness that has changed our entire food as a whole. Like, for example, fruits have been changed. They've been modified. They're now larger, bigger, with a lot more sugars. And same goes with other foods that we've had. So I think that is the problem, along with the fact that ever since childbirth, we're raised in a society where food is used as a coping mechanism. Like, for example, if you're a small child, you're crying, your parent gives you this delicious food. Now this translates into this psychological pathway that delves down further and further as you grow up. So I think those are the issues that we need to start addressing if we were to change society as a whole. But, you know, we like pointing fingers at everybody but ourselves.
Yeah, and I think a really good topic to kind of dive into would be neuroplasticity. And that's the ability to change the way you think, essentially, and the way you perform things. And this is kind of directly linked to using food as a reward mechanism and a comforting mechanism. So this is probably the bigger issues that we should tackle.
Exactly. And I'm coming to this same realization at the Keto Geek podcast is we've drained, like literally now from this point onward, we're getting diminishing returns on food and nutrition and to the end of the world. Biomarkers are not going to change if people are not going to change. That's the heart of the problem. And people move together as a society. So there's other facets that are affecting human evolution. Families, relationships, environment, so many different things. I think those directly influence health. And the podcast we just had with Thor Hansen is a clear indication that there's so much vast knowledge out there. So if we are to make people healthier, I think our steps need to move towards let's make better human beings.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think that might be all I have to say for now. And so, Corey, today's guest is going to be really fascinating. His name is Dan Quibell. Is that correct? Do you think I pronounced it right?
Quibell looks right. Quibell. I like that.
So this guy is, I'm going to describe him as the Sean Baker of bacon. But then again, Sean Baker came out later. So Sean Baker, you're this guy's the OG of eating one thing.
Sean Bacon.
Sean Bacon. So what he did is he spent 30 days just eating nothing but bacon.
He's supposed to be dead.
I know. And he's alive. And he lost weight. And his biomarkers improved.
Wow.
That's insane. I remember I had this one vegan friend and I initially saw Dan, an article about Dan, and I mentioned this to that person and they were like, this is not a controlled study. This is insane. This is crazy. But, you know, there's so many paradoxes now out there that clearly show that some of these crazy lifestyle choices might be some of the best options that are out there.
Yeah.
So, wow. You want to jump into the podcast?
Let's go for it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have Dan Quibell from The Bacon Experiment on our show. Thank you, Corey, by the way.
Thank you.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we have Dan on board with us at the Keto Geek podcast. Dan, you're all the way in Canada. What's up?
Hey, how are you? Ontario, Canada.
Ontario, Canada. First of all, how's the scene, as the keto scene up there in Canada?
Well, I get funny looks when I buy a cart full of bacon.
Oh, oops.
So, but actually, you know, I'm starting to see a little more and more. I've noticed once in a while I'll be going through the checkout aisle and I'll see somebody ahead of me with some grass-fed butter and about 100 pounds of meat. So, you know, I'm like, hey, I'll strike up a conversation. So I'm starting to see a few people doing it, and I've had a bunch of people from my town actually find me and kind of seek me out. Just more recently, about 20, 25 people, I would say. So I haven't made a meetup yet, but I think that might be in the future here.
Yeah, are you going to do like a full global bacon tour of some sort, like how the rock stars do it? That
might be an idea. I think people would come for bacon, especially the way I make it. I do a good job. I cook it in the oven, and I use the good hickory smoke, thick cut stuff, and I take my time and slow cook it, and you'd have to try it to understand that one.
Okay. Before we even get into your bio, what's the best bacon out there?
The best bacon. Well, I guess what I look for, and if you can afford it, then I would go to a farm and get the pasture-raised pork. And I can't explain it, but it just tastes better than the grocery store stuff. But I mean, it's going to cost you 3 times as much for that. When I did my original 30-day bacon experiment, I bought 60 pounds of the good stuff. It's non-GMO, and it actually it's the best bacon I've had since, and I haven't had anything that's been better. But yeah, I look for, I guess, thick cut, hickory smoked, and naturally smoked, I think is important too, because a lot of them have, a lot of the companies take a bit of a shortcut and they'll do like a wash over them, and it's pretty carcinogenic. So, but yeah, I'm not as picky as I was when I first started.
Okay. Yeah. I think now this is the part where we get into how you got into your keto, low carb lifestyle. So let's get into that, and we're going to return back into the different types of bacons, because that's an interesting topic.
Yeah, there's a few different ones. You can back bacon's a lot leaner cut, and then there's your belly cut, which is a lot fattier, but it ends up being about a 1-to-1 ratio after you cut it. So yeah, I do know lots about bacon. I've ate probably my body weight this past year or two, I would say, for sure, in bacon.
Yeah. So how did you get into the low carb and keto lifestyle? What was the spark?
I just had tried everything else. I was approaching 40, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go healthy. So everybody knows, fruits and vegetables. That's what's healthy, right? So I went to that, but I found that I needed a nap every day. About 2 p.m. was my crash time. After having my fruit smoothie in the morning, I would have to make another one before that one wore off, and it was that blood sugar roller coaster. And I was told this is the best diet on the planet. Lots of greens, lots of fruit, lots of vegetables. So yeah, I did vegan, raw vegan, a lot of plant-based stuff. I really tried hard at it too. I really did a lot of time and research, and I was eating stuff I hated, like kelp and sea vegetables, and really trying to get my protein in from, vegetables. It was tough. And then I think I found a podcast, actually, Abel James, and he was talking about eating bacon, and here's a guy with a 6-pack, and seemed very healthy to me, and talking about vegetables just being a transport for animal fat. And I was like, this guy's crazy. What's he talking about? But he got my attention. It was interesting. I was like, well, I've tried vegan, and I've tried the fruit, and I've tried Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig and all that kind of stuff to try to lose some weight and reduce my risk. I've had gout, like I said, for 20 years. I was telling you before we started recording. But yeah, I had gout every single year, and it'd be so bad that my foot would be the size of a football. And, I just kind of got tired of that. And I knew that there was a cardiovascular risk related to gout. And my doctor said it's not a matter of if you'll get a heart attack, it's when. So that, really scared me. So I went and did the paleo thing. I started doing it. It still seemed like something was missing. It did start helping me a lot. I started feeling a lot better. I didn't have gout anymore. I actually, when I was doing an all fruit diet for a little while, I had a gout attack that lasted me 6 weeks, and I went through 4 different medications, very painful. So I was the guy walking around outside in the wintertime in Canada with a bag on his foot, because I couldn't put my shoe on. My foot was so swollen and painful. And I thought I have nothing to lose, so I fried up a couple pounds of bacon, and it kind of never looked back, really, since then. My gout was gone in 2 days, and I kind of realized I was onto something. I actually found another podcast, Jimmy Moore. He's been around for a long time doing it. So that was 5 years ago, I think, that I found him, and I started doing my own research and started experimenting myself.
Real quick though, just to give people an idea, what was the whole time frame on this? How long ago did this journey begin, and how long ago did you get to this podcast? I'd say about 6 or 7 years ago, I started trying different things. I mean, my whole life I've done dieting, and my wife has done dieting, and I agreed to go with her. Like I really wanted to take the weight off. I was, over 260, about 200 and close to 270 was my highest weight. I stopped weighing myself at 260. What was your, what were you wanting to know there? Just wondering the whole timeline of events, as in you started listening to Jimmy Moore. How long ago was that? And so just keeping track here. Okay. Yeah. I found him about 5 years ago, and 2015 is when I did the bacon experiment. And actually, he was one of the people I kind of consulted on it, and he had wrote Cholesterol Clarity. So I thought, okay, here's somebody that knows a bit about cholesterol and saturated fats. And so to my surprise, he answered me right away, and we got into a conversation over email and on Facebook. And so I just started, devouring all his content, listening to it every time I'd get in the car and listen to all the different guests he had on. I've spent, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours listening to various podcasts, and a lot of your episodes, and the two keto dudes, I listen to their stuff too. But yeah, I've done a lot more than just listen to podcasts to learn. But 5 years ago, I found him, and 2015, kind of things changed for me when I did the bacon experiment. I dropped 20 pounds in the 30 days, and I wanted to know why. And I probably spent the next year until 2016 just trying to figure out why it worked so well, why it worked better than what I was doing before. And I think it was just one of my major realizations was just that, calories do matter, and that you can't, I found I could get away with a lot on keto and eat, 6 patty burger stacks and things like that. And I wouldn't put on too much weight, but again, I wasn't losing as quickly as I wanted to either. And that's why I first started this, was to get the pounds off, because I knew that would be related to my health and health markers. It's been 5 years. The first year or two, I would say, was major learning experience. I tried the carb cycling, which is just another name for having a cheat meal, having a pizza or something on the weekends. I did stuff like that because that's what I seen people talk about, carb cycling and carb loading, and none of that worked very well for me. I would always feel terrible after doing that. And so I don't do those anymore. I pretty much stay, strict. Even on birthdays, I would do maybe a keto-fied dessert from someone like Maria Emmerich. Okay. So what brought you to this madness? Just to put things in perspective, going 30 days on pure bacon at that time is pure madness. People would say you need everything else to stay alive. So what got you into this crazy experiment? Why did you do it?
Well, if I remember right, I think it actually, believe it or not. So I woke up and I was telling my wife about it, and she just looked at me and shook her head like, what are you talking about right now? But I said, no, I said, everybody loves bacon. And I said, I think people would be interested in following along and seeing what happens. I'll do all my blood work. I'll, monitor everything before, I'll monitor everything after. And I'm going to try to get people's attention, and then I'm going to explain keto to them as more of a lifestyle. So the bacon was kind of, an experiment, a stunt. I felt confident that I wasn't going to die. So that was good. I just wanted to see what the reaction would be from people and kind of get their attention, and then get them to listen to me about keto. So it started off as that. I didn't expect my health markers to improve so much and the weight loss to happen so quickly. So I kind of stumbled into that part of it.
So what happened to the blood markers and your physical changes like weight or waist circumference? What was it before and what happened during and what happened afterwards or at the end?
Well, I should have wrote this down to make sure I'm giving you accurate, exact info, but I think it was 19.6 pounds that I lost weight-wise just in the 30 days. My blood pressure, I know, came down almost 30 points. So I think it was 26 points it came down, which was dramatic. My blood pressure was almost 150 over 90, I think it was, or 88. So that was a big deal. Yeah, my doctor, I still remember, she was just in shock. Like, my wife was like, she was thinking she was going to have an I told you so moment when we went back in after the 30 days. And my doctor just kept shaking her head. Like, she was almost at a loss for words. She's like, I really don't know what to say. She's like, everything is so much better. My liver markers, my AST, my ALT, it all improved a lot. Just right across the board. My A1C was a little better. My inflammation, C-reactive protein had came down. Now, I don't have all the numbers right in front of me on that. I do remember my blood pressure and weight exactly. But yeah, even my fasting blood glucose, it was another thing that had come down a little bit. I wasn't ever type 2 diabetic, but I think I was on my way to being pre-diabetic. Did something get worse? The only one marker out of everything was LDL.
Oh yeah,
cholesterol, but I wouldn't really say that's worse, especially after, listening to Dave Feldman, and I did a lot of, I did his protocol, and I kind of see what happens. My HDL had moved up quite a bit, and my triglycerides had dropped quite a bit, so I wasn't too concerned with that. But yeah, I think that was it. There's nothing that really got worse.
Did you go unlimited bacon, or did you say, I'm going to have this much per day?
I did 2 pounds of bacon every day. And I started off with 3 meals a day. And then I found my appetite really quickly went down, and I felt really under control of my appetite. And that wasn't normal for me. I was hungry a fair bit, even on low carb, but this would be closer to zero carb. And I noticed a dramatic difference just by, doing the bacon only. So I ended up doing 2 meals a day. By then, I think there was actually a few days I just did 1 meal. So that's one thing I didn't stay perfectly consistent with. The amount of bacon, though, was always 2 pounds before I cooked it.
Okay. Yeah, because you lose a little bit afterwards. I think fat goes away, correct?
Yeah, quite a bit, actually. You render probably half, I would say half of the calories get rendered out as fat.
Okay.
And I was having fun with it because I had been working out before that. I had a personal trainer. But with the personal trainer and doing paleo, I lost 15 pounds in about a year. So losing 20 pounds in 30 days was just, outstanding. I was having shots of bacon grease as my pre-workout to fuel me up. And my trainer he said, "You're crazy doing this." He's like, "It's going to really hurt your results." And by the end of it, he was asking me about keto. So it was quite interesting. And he still does now. He's a bodybuilder now. And when he does his cuts, he actually goes keto. So, and he'll hit me up and, ask me about macros and stuff.
Yeah. Real quick, when you buy bacon from the store, it has specific calories. We were talking about this just moments ago.
Yeah.
When you cook it up or render it, is that reduced? Is that amount reduced? Like, for example, it says 180 calories in blah, blah, blah. So is that going to be cut down into like 100 or 90? Is that what you're going to actually get?
Yeah, if not less than that. Like, it might start off as 100 per 2 slices and ends up being 50. So when I first started this, I actually was saying, calories don't matter. Here I am having 3,000 calories a day and dropping weight like crazy. But I didn't really consider that, most of the stuff you find is uncooked, calorie count and macro count. So I thought I was having a lot more fat and a lot more calories than I was. It really ends up being closer to, like 1,500 calories a day, which was putting me into a deficit and, working. So yeah, so it's big too. It's like a big amount. I'd say at least half it drops it down by.
Okay. And does this spark some questions for you that remain unanswered at the moment? Or what kind of questions do you still have?
Well, I'm always learning, but I don't really have too many questions now. I didn't until I felt like I had answered most of them, or everything about bacon or why it's working. And, I looked into nitrates and I found that they're not really a concern. They form something called nitrosamines, but only at high heat. So for anyone listening, if you want someone that eats much bacon, don't pan fry your bacon. It's best to cook it in the oven and do so at 350 degrees. Even less than that would be even better. And that prevents the nitrates from forming nitrosamines, which are a carcinogen. That was just, kind of one thing that I learned along the way. And bacon there's a lot of things about bacon that why I think it works so well. The salt and the sodium in it as well. You need a lot more salt and sodium on when you're doing keto because your electrolytes get depleted. So a lot of people never experience the keto flu when they do the bacon experiment. And they feel great, high energy. The fat in bacon is actually the same stuff that's in olive oil. 60 to 70% of it is oleic acid. A lot of people don't realize that. So it's, it's a really good fat. And the proteins in it, I found out that a lot of the proteins that are in pork are actually ketogenic amino acids instead of being glucogenic. So, ketones get very high. I had somebody do the bacon experiment for 30 days, and I won't say his name, but he works for Abbott, actually, the drug company. But he had their monitor and all the test strips, which, you probably know they're pretty expensive. But since he worked for the company, he was given them for free. So he did the bacon experiment for 30 days, and he would test his blood sugar and his ketones several times every day. And he lost 27 pounds in 30 days. And by the end of it, his blood ketones were constantly 3 and 4. I think it was 4.2 by the end. Yeah. So bacon's very ketogenic. It's really has a really good appetite control effect. And, that's what everybody kind of finds.
Can you sustain it long term?
I know people that have done it for 50 days. I've only done 30 days myself, so that's all I would ever, recommend to people or say, to go for. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's very high in B vitamins, choline. There's lots of good stuff in bacon, more so than I, knew at first.
Yeah, we need another Sean Baker that does bacon. So if you want to take that podium, it's your stage now. If you really want to go all out on that.
Well, I don't know if you've heard of Spud Fit.
Nope.
He did a year of potatoes. Yeah. So I've actually talked to him a little bit, and he's like, "Oh, a month is nothing. You gotta do at least a year of bacon before you can talk to me," because I was having better results than him. And he was like, "Well, that's a month doesn't really tell you anything." So he was kind of challenged me to something like that. But I don't know. I don't think my family would approve of me having bacon 365. They're kind of tired of it because I almost do that anyways. I do eat a lot of bacon.
Okay. So did you notice that your cravings went away, or did they stay? What happened to your sweet tooth or salty tooth or any of those craving tooths? The only thing I noticed that I was craving during the last week when I did the original 30 days, I was craving beef for some reason. Now, I can't explain it. I don't know why. I don't know whether it was, iron, or it was a really craved beef. Like I really wanted it for some reason. So I actually ended up doing, near the end, I did up a bone broth I had grass-fed beef bone. The place I got my bacon actually sells the grass-fed beef, the farm there. So I went and I got some bones and I actually made up a broth, and then I made sure that I didn't, add a lot of fat because I didn't really want to. I wanted to have the bacon experiment be as pure as possible. Like not really. I was going to do bulletproof coffees at first, and the zero carb folks that came by to watch what I was doing, they told me not to. They said, no, keep it water and bacon if you can. So
I tried to do that. And yeah, the only thing I really wanted was beef. And I still don't know why, but I sipped on my beef broth and that kind of went away. And I didn't really, I haven't craved sweets and desserts or none of that's really all that hard for me. I'd say salt, if anything. Like the only thing even nowadays, I've been doing this for a long time and I still would say movie theater popcorn would be something that calls me.
Okay. Yeah, and
so I would say it's a salt.
Yeah, and that's what we're noticing too, is once you go on sort of this highly meat fat based diet, your cravings just go away and you don't want any more sweet food. So even when we try it, because we make a lot of sweet products, we really don't crave them, as in that's what the anecdotes are coming out for us. So what about yourself? What kind of anecdotes are you getting from other people when they go on this sort of bacon experiment? Do they report anything else than just some of the stuff that we've talked about?
Yeah, there's a long list, really. Inflammation is kind of one of the things I would say that comes up a lot. People just saying that I have a lot of, older people that have tried it and they have a lot of joint pain and things like that. That seems to go away. So very anti-inflammatory. A lot of type 2 diabetics have come in that are trying to get their blood sugar under control and lose the weight. And I've seen that go from 200 and 300 down to 80, 90 within usually 5 to 7 days if they do a 1 week bacon experiment. And they just can't believe it. And I've actually had I remember one guy that was a type 1 diabetic came in and he's like, "Can I do this, Dan?" And I was like, "Well, here's what's going to happen. You're going to need less insulin. You need to go talk to your doctor. I can't give medical advice, but you're going to need to adjust your medications." And he was able to reduce his insulin by something like 75% within, I think he did the bacon experiment for 2 weeks. And by the end of that, he was down and he started asking me a lot of questions. How does this work? This is saving me $1,000 a month or whatever it was at the time because insulin pretty expensive. And so, yeah, this was 2 years ago and he's still following low carb now. So yeah, it's, I've basically, made this now where I'm trying to make it a career and I help people for free for 2-3 years until I couldn't afford it anymore. I was starting to go broke just because all my time was on this. It's just so exciting, right? Having people, just their whole world changes or their whole outlook on life changes a lot of times. They go from all these diabetic complications and the pretty bleak future to, suddenly feeling like they can really do this. They can make a change. And I'm like, I know how that feels because once I started getting off medications and I, started losing the weight and seeing all my blood markers and my doctor backed me, I was like, okay, I'm onto something here. This is real. And it's not clogging my arteries. And so, yeah, it's been really exciting.
That's fascinating. And so, yeah, I agree, man. A lot of you guys are influencers who are working really hard, long hours, trying to help people with a lot of their diseases and complications. You guys definitely need to get paid, just saying. So you've started this new project that you're working on the side as well. Let's delve a little bit into it. I think you do the 7-day keto challenge as well, and then you've got other things going on. So would you like to explain that?
Sure. I started a few things. I have a little page called Keto Success Stories. I just did that kind of for the community. Lots of people started writing in. I put my own up and I put my friends up and clients. I have something, a 30-day paid program. It's a group coaching program, and I was showing people that. But it seemed like it was hard to explain to people what all I do, because I give them a menu and they do accountability posts every day, and I do live question and answers inside a Facebook group and all this stuff. So it just was hard to explain it all in a short Facebook post. So I offered it for free to the public. 7 days, you get a meal plan, like you get a food list, a grocery list, and you get I keep it really simple. It seems like that's very, very important. So it's just like have 5 pieces of bacon and 5 eggs. That's your first meal of the day. And it's a very simple, basic menu like that. And so I offered that out. I figured it's pretty foolproof. It's hard to go wrong. Everything's very simply laid out for people. I do the same thing. I do the three times a week. I'll do a live Q&A, and they tend to go on for 90 minutes or so a lot of times, just question after question after question. And I've just spent so much time at this that, I don't get stumped very often now after doing this for so long. But yeah, the 7-day challenge is open to the public. I do it every month. It runs for a week, and it's been really neat. People are just blown away. Like they find a lot of things. Like I know all the common things that people do wrong. Like maybe their carbs are a little bit too high. They're not paying attention to calories, or, they're eating a lot of nuts, or a lot of dairy, a lot of processed foods, a lot of stuff with wheat in it still, even though it's low carb because it's high in fiber. It's considered low carb, even though it still affects them. So I cut all those things out, keep it to a very basic, near zero carb with some greens in there. And it's been very, very effective for people. Do you mind if I give the link out for that? Or
go for it.
I put together a website, make it real easy for people to sign up. It's www.freeketochallenge.com. And the last round I had, I think 1,600 people came in, and a lot of them just kind of kept going, and they keep rejoining. And I say, they're asking me, can I come into the next one? I lost 10 pounds the first time. And so yeah, I say join as many as you want. It's, there's no catch. It's just free to everybody to try.
Sounds good. Yeah, I wouldn't mind trying the 30-day bacon challenge myself, and your protocol as well. So how is yours different from other typical keto challenges or keto diets that are out there?
Well, I do a few things. I pretty much don't ignore anybody. There's different camps, high fat, high protein, calories matter, calories don't matter. Hormones are everything. There's a lot of different theories, and I've listened to everybody. And, I do feel that what I do helps people keep their insulin under control and down, and their blood sugars down. So keeps them even. And I put them into a calorie deficit, and I make sure that they get enough protein so that they're not losing any muscle mass. And I do push bacon because I see how bacon comes with that sodium that they need. So it's one less thing to have to worry about for electrolytes. Salmon is on my menu thanks to Marty Kendall. I know he'd be happy to hear that. I have some nutrient-dense foods like spinach is on there as well, and a few other things. So I kind of have convenience, and I have, healthy options depending on, where people are leaning towards. I think greens are optional on my plan. So if somebody they really, like a bachelor, and they're down with eating tons of bacon and eggs, someone like that, that's always on the go can do it. Or somebody that's, a stay-at-home mom, and they do have a bit of time to cook and they want some more elaborate meals. Like I have a beanless chili, for example, and I think it has 12 ingredients in it. So it has a good mix. I keep adding to it. Like my full program has something like 60 menu items now. There's Indian food, there's Chinese food, there's, like a wide range of stuff, wings, ribs,
Yeah.
And they don't have to calculate macros because I've done all the calculating. That's, I think, a key point too. People seem to love that because they get confused trying to calculate macros and body weight and body fat percentages. And I understand why they do that. Like I understand why that's the typical way people do things because, macros are important and they do matter. But I calculate it for them and then just say, here, eat, 5 eggs and 5 pieces of bacon. And, it works out for them.
Okay. What's your protocol like for yourself? What do you eat on a daily or a regular basis?
I do still eat a lot of bacon myself. It depends, I guess, whether I'm buying a house like this week and kind of running around. We just sold our house, and we're moving here, so it's been a little hectic. But yeah, I have things on the go. Some days it could be something as simple as pre-cooked bacon in the microwave, and other times I'll have grass-fed steak or salmon. I really think salmon's a really good food with the healthy omega-3 fats and that we can make use of. So I guess it kind of depends, like everyone else. I make it fit into my lifestyle and what works for me. But I still do eat a lot of bacon, eggs. I eat a lot of eggs. I think eggs are a pretty complete food. So I look at them as they're nutrient dense. And Marty Kendall is going to talk me into trying a few different things and adding a bit more nutrient dense, more variety. And so I do. I do that. I think he's right. I think it's important over the long term when you're really making this a lifestyle. You don't really want to stick to, just one thing so much. But it's just amazing to me, though, that how some people do that. Like I know people that have been living on steak and water for 10 to 12 years, and they seem like healthy people. So it's been mind-blowing to me seeing stuff like that. But,
how can you do this on the go, by the way? Go ahead. Sorry.
On the go. Well, I know a lot of ladies that do purse bacon.
What?
They, you purse bacon. It's a thing now. People take it right into the movie theater. I have people that are doing the bacon experiment, and they're going to the movie theater, and the purse bacon is a thing. They'll use they have to double Ziploc it because everyone will smell it. So, and then they're sneaking these. I do folded bacon is a way that I cook it in the oven. You fold your bacon over in half, and you can cook twice as much on a cookie sheet on some parchment paper. So that's kind of one way to do it. You can cook up 2 pounds, 4 pounds of bacon at a time, and it's good cold, better than you would think.
Okay. Hey,
that's one way.
any other ways?
Fast food. Yeah, fast food options. Like I tell people, if you want to go into McDonald's and have quarter pounder patties a la carte, it's a way to get, you can get half a pound of meat for $2, and it is all beef now. There's no fillers in McDonald's. I guess at one time that used to be. So, I try to make it work for people's lifestyles. I've had people on cruises that can still make it work and hit up buffets or on vacation. I think buffets are a good way to go because then you can pick your own food. But yeah, not everything travels. Beanless chili is a really good recipe that we've come up with, and people put that into a thermos and take that and have that at lunch at work. Okay.
So here's kind of backtracking a little bit with this question. So we talked a little bit about how after cooking, bacon fat drops quite a bit. Do you have any rough idea of what the macro breakdown or percentages of fats that are still left on there, or is it just pure lean protein left on there?
No, it ends up being about a 1-to-1. Sorry, a 1-to-1 ratio, and that's kind of where I think a lot of people do well. Like I've done protein sparing modified fasts a few times. And I've done really high fat with, fat bombs and bulletproof coffees. And I felt really good doing that. I felt high energy, but I know I did lose a bit of muscle mass doing that. So, yeah, bacon ends up being about the same as eggs, like a 1-to-1 ratio after cooking the belly bacon. For someone that's an athlete or someone trying to build muscle, you could still do bacon only, but you'd have to have back bacon. So when I did the original bacon experiment, it was actually probably 200 grams of protein a day. I did half back bacon, so a pound of, it was called P-mail here in Canada, and I did half of belly bacon.
Okay.
So you can it's kind of versatile that way if you want to change it up.
Okay.
But yeah, it is 1-to-1 for belly cut bacon, which is your standard.
Can you make bacon at home? And if yes, how do we do that?
You can. It's something I haven't done. There's lots of people that are in my group that have done it. Maybe after I get settled in after the move here, it might be something I'll try out because it's not that hard. I have a friend that's in Quebec, and he's a butcher, and he's made lots of bacon for himself. He sent me some of it, and it was really, really good. Easily as good as the farm stuff, I would say. So yeah, it's something I'm going to try. But yeah, you get pork belly, and you use salt, like a rub, and I don't think it takes all that long, really, to cure it.
Okay, fantastic.
But I haven't done it myself yet.
Do you eat pork or just bacon?
Yeah, I eat some pork as well, like pork tenderloin. Actually, I have some pork. I have a pork tenderloin marinating in my fridge right now. It has apple cider vinegar and some lime juice and some ginger and a bunch of other spices, and it's really good. Sausages, somewhat. A lot of sausages have filler. You got to watch out. I just look at the ingredients, and if I see wheat, then I pass on it. But yeah, mainly bacon, I guess, for pork stuff.
Okay, let's say if I walk into a grocery store and I want to get the healthiest bacon, then what do I need to look out for? What do I need to be careful about?
Yeah, so that's why I spent $11 a pound when I first did this, is I was kind of afraid of everything with bacon. I thought, I got to do this the healthiest way possible. My thoughts have changed since then. Like I did go for nitrate free, and I still have people come into the group all the time saying, well, you need to have nitrate free. It's, and then I'll show them like, no, like really, they're not that much of a concern. If they actually stay as nitrates, they form nitric oxide. Nitrates form nitric oxide, which is actually really good for your cardiovascular health. So, not a concern unless you cook it at high heat. The other things, I guess, would naturally smoked. That's something, if it doesn't say naturally smoked on it, I would avoid it, because that means they've used a wash, and those washes are pretty carcinogenic, or they're, high in carcinogens. They have all those little particles, and I guess that's pretty common. That's more on the cheapest bacon, I guess they would do that. I guess that's really the main things I would look for. Non-GMO, that's, kind of personal preference. I kind of first thought that you would want only pasture raised, only grass-fed everything. But after spending some time in the zero carb or the carnivore community, I went in and talked to a lot of them, and a lot of them actually seem to do better with grain finished, which I was shocked to find that. I thought, grass-fed is the only way to go, but a lot of them do that, I think, just to bump the fat content up too. But yeah, that's all I look for. I just look for naturally smoked, and the nitrates I'm fine with or without. I would actually not get the nitrate-free stuff because I use celery salt, which is actually even higher in nitrates, really. So it's not like it is any different, really.
Okay. Yeah, and just to pry that grass-finished stuff, even on ruminants, we did our research and we concluded that grain-finished probably works out way better from a health standpoint. But there's arguments for both of them, and for us, that seems to be the verdict, and we've done a couple of articles on that as well. So any other topic that you'd like to cover here that you are interested in?
I'm not really sure. I'm kind of seeing some different trends lately. It seems like carnivore is becoming more of a thing, and the bacon experiment definitely is that. If anyone wants it, I do have actually a PDF that explains how to do the bacon experiment exactly. It's www.baconforfree.com, the number 4. If you want to check that out and give it a try. I really like, even now, I just love seeing people do the bacon experiment because they're always surprised. Like the results are always different than what they think they're going to be. It's still I'm kind of, I'm still passionate and still get excited about it. Being inside the bacon experiment group, just because it's, instantly shows people what a ketogenic diet can do for them. So yeah, I think that's something that I think everybody should try for 7 days. And, just see like the appetite control. It's a good way to try, and a tasty, obviously delicious way to try a zero carb, like carnivore diet, is just doing the bacon experiment.
Have you ever delved into the history of bacon by any chance?
No, I haven't, surprisingly. I actually haven't really. I know they've been, curing meats like that for a long, long time. Before refrigeration, I know that, curing was kind of the main way they would preserve, meat. So, but no, I don't know who was the first one to, create this deliciousness, really.
Yeah, I would be curious how this curing processes, if at all, influences the chemical composition of the food itself, because that's one of the fields that I like to research and read on. I mean, if you want to add here, that's fine. If not, we can move to the next topic.
No, I don't really think I have too much to add to it. I think it does, dehydrate the meat, and the salt kills any of the pathogens or the bacteria, like the bad ones, and leaves behind some. I've done a bit of like fermentation of vegetables, made my own sauerkraut and things like that here at home, and it's pretty basic stuff. Like it's just that's going back to what people did before civilization took off like it is now, before refrigeration. And just salt and water to cabbage, right? And you have your sauerkraut, and it's full of good probiotics. I know that's not bacon related, but very similar. It's just interesting to see the power of salt and how long that can last. Like, 6 months, 8 months, you can still eat that stuff, and it's full of healthy gut bacteria.
Yeah. Could there be some medical application, theoretically speaking, of this bacon diet?
I'd say, yeah, I see it all the time. I see it every day. I have a woman right now that's, in her 60s, and her blood sugars went from, it was 200 and 300 every day, and it's at 80 and 90. And she messaged me in a panic. My blood sugars are low. I went down to 90. I haven't seen this in 20 years. And I said, that's perfect. I said, you're doing awesome. And she went in, she has an appointment. She goes in every 3 months, and she has one coming up here in a week or two. And she's actually really excited about it. She sent me a lot of her blood work to kind of look at, and yeah, her liver markers were all getting pretty bad, like getting worse each time. Her ALT and AST were getting worse, and her A1C was slowly creeping up, and and she's on metformin and insulin, and I'm expecting good things, like her, to go from 200 and 300 every day down to 80, 90. I know her doctor's going to be shocked to hear what she's doing. So yeah, I see it every day. People just, changing their life with bacon. They get started on bacon, and then they go, now what do I do? Like, I get their attention. And that was my goal right from the start. Get their attention with the bacon, and then explain a ketogenic diet or a ketogenic lifestyle. And like, here's what it's done for me, and, give it a try, see if it works for you. And, it's not 100% for everybody, but there's a lot of people that, yeah, they're all in, just like I am.
Fantastic. I would recommend you to maybe reach out to the group called Paleo Medicina. They're high on the pork fat stuff, by the way. And they have some amazing foods, and they also use that dietary protocol to fight some of the very complicated conditions as well. So that one might be a good lead for you, someone like yourself. And in fact, anybody who's into this sort of lifestyle. It's really fascinating. It's really interesting. It's another tool that people can utilize to improve their health. And I think one of the strongest tools, one of the strongest results that people get is appetite control, which is a little difficult to do with so many different hyper-palatable foods that are out there at the moment in our world. So Dan, I think we're getting close to wrapping this up. Do you have anything you'd like to add here at all?
Just one thing I do want to say. Well, if people do go to the PDF, it'll explain it. But I do have a different weight. If someone wants to try the bacon experiment, for women, I would recommend 1.5 pounds a day, a little bit less. And for men, it's 2 pounds. Just because generally, not to say that all women have less muscle, but as a whole, there's less lean mass that women have, so they need fewer calories, a little bit lower protein. And the reason I'm saying that is just that we were talking 2 pounds of bacon a day, so I know that some women, if they eat 2 pounds of bacon a day, they're not going to lose anything and they're not going to see results. So they'll think, oh, this doesn't work. But that's the difference between men and women. It's just a little bit different amount. But yeah, I don't really have too much else to say. I think we've covered, a lot of topics. Anyone that's on the fence and listening to this, that wondering if they should try a ketogenic diet, the bacon experiment's that's the beautiful part about it. It's just so simple. Like, eat a pound and a half of bacon a day, or 2 pounds of bacon a day. It doesn't get any easier than that. And people see results right away, and nothing motivates people. I find, like, seeing some weight loss results. That's what a lot of people are after, and they get that quickly. And then, it gets their attention. Okay, well, what about my health? And then they look at their health markers, and then their health markers have all improved. So, they're all in, or they're going to at least give it a longer try at that point. So yeah, if you're on the fence thinking about trying a ketogenic lifestyle, or you're wondering how to start and it's just all overwhelming, this is as simple as it gets. Eat a pound and a half of bacon a day, and measure yourself, take your measurements around your waist. My waist went from a 44 plus down to 32. So I've lost 12 inches around my waist, and, I know what that means for my metabolic health. And I keep seeing the same type of results repeated over and over. So yeah, give it a shot and try it out. And it's absolutely changed my life in every way imaginable. My daughter's she has a gluten sensitivity, and she's went to low carb and keto as well. And it's just been life-changing for her as well. We used to be up every night with her at 2 a.m, like clockwork. 2 or 3 a.m, she'd be sick and throwing up, and it was really hard, to watch as a dad, her struggling so much, and we just didn't know what was going on with her. And it turns out it was the bagel she was having every day, that she loved, her favorite food, bagel with cream cheese. And so we just switched it up to, folded bacon with a bit of cream cheese on it. And she's happy, and she's, lost a few pounds and feeling really good. Like, the main thing was this, that she's not sick anymore. So yeah, I just keep seeing the same thing over and over. I haven't seen too many downsides of a ketogenic lifestyle.
Could people potentially gain weight on a very high meat fat sort of approach, as in the bacon diet?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. I had one lady that said, this isn't working, I'm up 3 pounds, and she had done it for, usually people will say that after 3 or 4 days, but she had done it for 2 weeks. And I mean, this is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that have done this now. And I was like, whoa, I've never heard this before. And it turned out she was eating 2 pounds after it was cooked. And she was only 130, 140 pound woman. And so she was having 2 pounds of bacon after it was cooked. So it would have started out as 4 pounds or so. And she had gained a few pounds. So yeah, I do see a point where, just too much energy in, and people will start to gain weight. And that happened to me as well. I didn't really gain weight at the start, but I wasn't really losing either. Like, when I first did, a ketogenic diet, I was just overeating, because I just couldn't believe it. You should have seen my grill. I just covered the whole grill in, burgers and steaks. And I was like, this is the life. But my health started improving. But for weight loss, I do think that, in the end, calories do matter, which, kind of wrecks the magic of a ketogenic diet. But I've just found that to be true. And anybody that I've talked to that's had success losing 80 to 100 pounds, a lot of people are able to lose 20 and 30 pounds, but until they really start paying attention to calories as well and macros, their chances are not great to get all the way down. But that being said, I do think hormones are huge as well. Like, I think that appetite effect control that you were talking about, that naturally, makes people eat a lot less. So yeah, I would say don't try to go out and see what you can get away with. Kind of go with once you get into ketosis, what your body's telling you.
Yeah, because you'd imagine that you're eating the same thing and that would hit satiety quicker. Like, for example, at least that's the case, that's what theoretically would make sense. But it seems like exceptions still do exist, correct?
Yeah, and I've tested a lot of individual foods. I would say, just to give people some takeaways here, bacon is amazing in a lot of ways. I would say, though, it more curbs your hunger for a lot longer after you eat it. So you don't get that spike and drop, and that's what I find causes hunger. It's once people raise their blood glucose or their insulin much, and then when it comes back down, that's when you get hungry. After a couple hours with bacon, 5-6 hours later, you're still feeling good, but it might not give you that immediate satiety, like fullness. You don't feel overstuffed or anything. So for someone that kind of needs that fuller belly feeling, I would say eggs and salmon are very filling foods. And I've eaten nothing but salmon for, 10 days or 7 to 10 days. I've eaten nothing but eggs for 7 days. Like I really try to isolate something like that. So here's how it's affecting me because I'm eating nothing else. So I do find there's a difference in a lot of these foods. Like chicken didn't really fill me up for as long. So I'm seeing a distinct difference between different foods. And, I don't know the reason why exactly on some of them, but I do find a huge difference. Like salmon is very hard to overeat. Salmon to me is one of probably the best health foods in for weight loss. It actually beat out bacon. It's the only thing that's beat out bacon. And I've tried a lot of different things.
Yeah, salmon seems very difficult to overconsume. Or maybe it's just because there's no bones in there like other meats. And chicken, for me at least, that one is just, it's difficult to consume, period, for me. And it doesn't hit that mark, as you were just stating. I think for me, ruminant stuff works out really well. And then bacon's off. I mean, it's just bacon. It's the best thing ever. So, Dan, I think we've nailed down quite a bit of time here. Do you want to give people your final plugs?
Sure. If anyone wants to check out my free challenge, which is 7 days, and you actually get to work with me one-on-one, totally free. You can check that out, www.freeketochallenge.com. If you want to try the bacon experiment, which, also people feel great. You get to eat nothing but bacon for, a week, or as long as you could do for 30 days if you wanted to. And a lot of people do. That one's www.baconforfree.com. There's a PDF, tells you, how much bacon to eat. I talk about electrolytes a little bit in there as well, that kind of thing. I think would be the biggest thing too. Somebody else just starting out on the ketogenic diet, electrolytes. I nonstop talk about them because that seems to be what, can throw some people off. So just pay attention to your electrolytes, take your magnesium each day, and, make sure your potassium, don't overlook potassium. It's important to get that in. But yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all I really have to say. And I hope people give it a try, and hit me up. I'd love to hear from people and see how they make out doing it. I get excited every day. I have a thread inside the Bacon Experiment group that I have on Facebook. And, every day that I see people saying, I've been eating bacon since January, a lot of bacon, and they're down 40, 50 pounds. I screen capture it and make a thread where it's showing people's results. And it's up to maybe 100 posts or more now, of just, I don't see too many people failing at it. It works well. So
awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah, check it out. I'd love to hear about it.
All right. Final words, or are we done?
Yeah, sorry. I think that it, eat your bacon would be my final words.
All right, Dan, thank you so much for being on our show. You've been a blast to chat with, and people can go check out your 30-day bacon challenge. And that's it. Thank you for listening to the show. You can visit us at ketogeek.com to check out our premium, keto-friendly, and low-carb food products, including our infamous energy pods, made from the best ingredients we could find in the entire country. We also recommend signing up for our newsletter at ketogeek.com/signup, where you get exclusive discounts, rewards, product announcements, and the latest content we are working on. You also get a 10% discount on your entire order when you sign up. Go to ketogeek.com/signup to join the low-carb playground.